So again, in this video, we're going to focus on getting some animation going. Now, animation is kind of a, not the right word. The idea is we actually want it to like print the puzzle in its current state every time it puts in another number, so we can kind of see it solve the puzzle. That's the idea of animation. So it's gonna be like in a flip book where you, to get an animation, all you do is you make slight changes and you can see the movement. Same idea here, except for it's gonna be numbers changing. So in our Sudoku solver, what we need to do is we're actually going to modify the signature of our method here so that it's expecting, because we may not always want it to animate, right? We might want it to animate sometimes, but not always. So just thinking a step ahead, we're going to add a Boolean here. I'm going to say Boolean animate. Okay. Now, of course, that causes an error over here in my tester because now I need to tell it true, animate, or false if I didn't. Right. Okay, so and then likewise here in our recursive call, whatever I passed in first, I want to pass in on the recursive call. So I'm just going to say animate. So how do we animate? Well, again, we really wanted to display the board every time solve Sudoku gets called. So right here, all right, I'm just going to say if animate, then display board. Okay, now that's our first step. So I'm just going to compile and run this, and so we can see, whoa, it if you were watching close, I'm going to run that again. Watch my terminal down here. We can see a whole bunch of stuff fly on the screen. If I try to scroll up here, though, you'll actually see I can scroll all the way up, and it printed a whole bunch of stuff really fast there, like tons of stuff. So we actually want it to not print that quickly. We kind of want it to pause. And so let's see if we can figure out how to make our program pause. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser and Google's our friend. And so I'm just going to say Java program pause. How to pause. Now that seems relevant. How to pause. I don't want it for 2 seconds, but let's see what happens here. So remember in Stack Overflow, if you're ever using this, the first thing is the question. Generally, you want to kind of glance at the question to see if it seems as relevant as you first thought. But the answers will come after it, and the accepted answer will usually have a check mark next to it. And so here we go. You can use thread.sleep and then 2000. So 2000 must be, he wants 2 seconds, so that must be milliseconds. And so I'm going to go back to our code here. We're going to display the board. And we're going to say thread.sleep. And I don't want it for 2000. I'm going to make it for 100 milliseconds. Okay. Now you'll notice that Visual Studio Code is underlining this. It's saying there's something wrong. So I'm going to click on this little bulb and it says change modifiers to find where possible or move. I don't like that as my options. I'm going to mouse over this. And there's a quick fix. Add throws declaration, surround with try catch. So thread sleep does something. It must be able to cause an error. I think the idea is if you interrupt it in the middle of a thread, it might crash, and so we're going to put a try catch around this. So we're going to say try thread sleep 100 catch. And I'm just going to leave this at default. Okay. So now if I run this, I'm going to compile and then run. And so now we can see it more like it's animating. Cool. Except if you scroll up, you can still see all the previous ones. So it's not actually animating, it's just printing and then pausing between each one. So in order to get real animation, the important thing for animation is not only that you show like the next step, but that it's like a clean slate every time. So we actually needed to clear the screen every time. So going back to Java, or to my Google here, I'm going to say Java clear terminal. Clear the console. There we go. You can see I've already clicked it. So I've already looked this up. And so we can do this, except we're on Linux. And so the command to clear the console is clear. I don't think this actually works, though. I don't think this actually works. I think And see, I know it's not marked as accepted, which that's the important thing. It says we can use this. This actually is what we're going to use. Through some trial and error, this seems to work. So I'm going to copy. So you'll have to Google this. You're looking for this clear console. You're going to Google, and then we're going to copy this print. This print statement along with this flush seems to clear it. So what I'm going to do is, before we display the board, we do that print and then flush. And so now if we compile and we run it, now we can see it. Now it flickers every so often. That's just because that clear or whatever, it flickers. It also, it's kind of slow. I think if we were to change the sleep to maybe, I don't know, 10, and then compile and run, we might see, oops, compile and run. All right, we can see it kind of fills in a little bit faster. That's 1/10 of the time. There we go. Wow, that was pretty fast. In fact, that's too fast. That's not very interesting, right? Because kind of the fun for this is to watch it solve. So I'm gonna set that to 50. Oops. Helps if I compile it. And so now we can kind of watch it. And you can see the backtracking happening. That's what I think is the coolest part about this. You actually see it where it gets down to a certain point and then realizes, nope, that's not going to work, and it kind of goes back. So that's it for this video. We now have some basic animation working. We have our Sudoku solver working. Yeah, so let's take a look at our to-do list here. I feel like we're done with all of the things that we had to do. I think what we'll do is in our next video, we will go ahead and tackle this loading from a file, because as you noticed when you went to update the puzzle in our tester, that's really tedious. So it would be nice if we could just load from a file or something, and then we could have some files. In fact, in the next video, I'll show you a website that I found that has a bunch of Sudoku puzzles already in files. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.